Welcome in, everybody. I'm Joey, and we're going to start off the video with a new segment on the show called Can I Hold Pole Position Through Turn 1? And the answer is absolutely not. Hell no. Getting a good start is not on my resume, and it's not on this guy's resume either, as he's just drifted off into the distance, never to be seen again. But bad starts are going to become a theme of this episode. But for that race, finishing in first place. And that was all that happened that race, so not very eventful. And when Lime Rock popped up again in the hopper, I jumped right in for another race, this time in the F40, and our buddy here in the F50 just taking out a bunch of people and then running off the track himself. So there's another guy on the channel that we've identified as a future esports tournament winner. We're getting bombarded by a feisty Lambo here around the left-hander, and coming out of the S's, we've left him in the dust, luckily. So, you know, we can add him to the esports pile as well. I see some potential there. I do. Not as much as the Ferrari, though. The way he ran those guys off was spectacular. But let's set up the video, because we're already a minute in, and I've given absolutely no context to what we're doing, as a Lambo very kindly nearly pushes me into the wall, and then I come back for a double overtake on him. Eat that shit. But the point of the video is we're going to try out some of the cars in the early factory race cars hopper. They just released this one this week, and I got some really fun races. So this one in particular, as I said earlier, we're back at Lime Rock in a Ferrari. The first race was in the F50, so that did pretty well. So I figured let's try out the F40. The Ferraris are the best handling cars in the division, or the spec, or whatever they're calling these, the group. I don't know. We'll call it the group. So that's 4 brands and 5 cars in total that are available to choose from, and we'll give them all a try in the video. For now, we're locked in a generational Ferrari battle, hanging it around the outside, getting the better of the F50. The F40, clearly the better of the two, but not for long, because I've smashed it straight into a tire wall, carrying about 100 miles per hour too much through the exit of the corner, and actually helping out the guy that I just passed by keeping him out of the tire wall and getting him back onto the track, trying to find my way back onto the track myself, and eventually pulling over to the right side to let all the good folks through so I don't take anybody out inadvertently. And after that incredible display of skill, finding myself down in 9th place now, eventually on lap 4 though, catching up to another F50. The Ferraris are a very popular choice for Lime Rock, just because, like I said earlier, they're the best handling cars of the group, and on a track like Lime Rock, that is going to suit it very well. When it comes to the differences between the Ferraris, we're looking at the F40 having the top speed advantage and the F50 having the advantage everywhere else. So acceleration, braking, handling, the F50 is going to win out there, but making that not look like the case. The F40 going around the outside again. I guess that's kind of my corner here. Not really a great overtaking corner, but we're getting it done around the outside. And F50 looks like he met the same fate as I did on lap 2, smashing straight into the tire wall, and then getting a free position as somebody, it looked like 5th place, was into the wall very far off the track. Must have been a really popular place to hang out with a couple of back markers down there with them. Fingers crossed I don't wind up smashing the shit out of that tire wall as well. We're on lap 8 now, a small group of 2 ahead of us, and the medium tires we've got on are starting to go. We're about halfway worn, and they'll be turning yellow shortly, which means we'll be needing to go into the pits, which is a good deal because we're about halfway through the race, which means I can throw another set of mediums on, and we should be good to go for the rest of the race. Now, the F50 in front of us that Skeptor is driving, I know he's on hard tires, so we'll want to get by him as quickly as possible. He'll be doing an extended run on those, and we'll be having to pit earlier, so the quicker we can get by him, the better. We weren't able to do it around the final corner there. We'll just have to wait and see if we can pressure him into making a mistake before we pit next lap, making a move up the inside, or at least making it look like I was making a move up the inside. That didn't put him off all that much, but coming out of the S's, he goes a bit wide, dips a couple of tires onto the grass. We make contact. I'm onto the grass just a tiny bit, not going off the track, no penalties handed out. We got the move done up into 4th place. before the end of the lap. That's ideal. We can try to extend that gap as much as possible, and that will pay dividends at the end of the race. Coming down the hill, making sure I don't eat rubber again in that tire wall, sticking to the right side, and heading into the pits for that new set of mediums. And then things kind of stayed stagnant until lap 13. I caught up to a Porsche, and there was the guy in the F50 on hard tires before in the wall, so maybe some tire wear not helping him out. And there I showed a move up the inside of the Porsche. Wasn't going to go for it, but it totally puts him off his line and gives me the opportunity to go around the outside onto the big bend. And we get that move done, and that's where the race would end. So third place, got back onto the podium after that disastrous start and crash into the wall to eat rubber, but I'd say a pretty good end to it all considering. Speaking of disasters, here's one that actually kind of benefited me. Well, not just kind of, it did benefit me. Right off the start, we've got a bunch of geniuses that just can't keep it together. Everyone running into each other, gaining 7 places up from 16th into 9th. Around turn 1, hitting the apex nicely, and all the cars in front just hitting each other. We've got an F1 coming back onto the track horizontally. He said, if my race is ruined, I'm going to ruin a bunch of other people's races. He failed pretty epically at that, though. I think he only slowed one Ferrari down. Now through the chicane onto the straight, the Lamborghini, it looked like he broke in there for some reason, got pushed wide, and then back through the right-hander, the Ferrari spinning out and the Porsche up front pushing off the other F1. The F1 a popular choice here for lawnmowers, I guess, at Indy. Very expensive British lawnmowers, but I guess they'll do the trick. Making our way over to Watkins Glen, where I've insta-killed a Ferrari off the start line. So apparently the F40 just does not get a good start off the line. That thing was moving at 2 miles per hour. So maybe it's not my fault totally that my launches in the Ferraris were all that bad. We're trying out the Diablo now, and of the car choices, I think this was the fastest, as this Lamborghini driver up here found out, goes into the wall, coming off, and nearly takes me out. Luckily, didn't make too big of an impact. We're able to keep the car on the track and keep going. The acceleration in this thing is just off the charts, making quick work of that Porsche down the straight, but it is a handful to drive. That F1 apparently is also a handful to drive, spinning out, looking like a ceiling fan out here, going 1v1 with the Porsche through the outer loop into the chute, breaking where that bit of concrete extends off the track down into third gear and getting in front of the Porsche, closing the door on any potential cutback, and 11th place is ours. I do feel a little violated though. He touched my rear end. It wasn't pleasurable. Was not. And we very quickly caught up to the fight for 8th place, and well, now I'm the one doing the violating. That's just great. But he does something pretty incredible here and just moves over to the right and lets me through. We're gonna need a replay on that, and here we go. That's just sensible highway driving right there. If you're on the left in the fast lane, pull over to the right to let the asshole going 100 behind you by, and then, you know, once that's done, do your thing. Apparently the wild card Porsche behind us decided to slow the rest of the group down. Another incident with a Porsche on deck, this one a different driver rejoining the track as I went pretty deep, a couple of tires up onto the curb, losing traction. The Porsche goes on by, trying to feather the throttle in this Lambo as much as possible, but once this thing gets up onto the curb, it gets slippery. And now there's nothing left to do but put the head down and try to get back past this guy. And down the straights in this Lambo, it's an easy thing to do, but around the bends, the Porsche's going to have the advantage. He's sticking around. Some great driving from him, staying alongside around the outside. He's got the inside for turn 11, and that's a losing battle for me unless I can get the cutback onto the straight, throwing on what looks like NOS in this thing, honestly. Acceleration, unknown to mankind. It's some alien shit in this thing. But once again, Willionaire hanging it around the outside. What a legend. He's given us a hell of a battle. We are on to the straight to finish off lap 2, so we're going to get that position. It was inevitable in the Lamborghini. And then we'll skip ahead to lap 3, the end of the lap, where we found another Porsche. I feel like I've said Porsche like 5 million times. There's just a ton of them here at Watkins Glen, I guess. This one in particular will be entering the pits here at the end of lap 3, and we are on medium tires, so I want to finish lap 3, and then at the end of lap 4, we'll enter the pits. That's about halfway through the race. It's going to take a little longer to get to the end of the lap, though, because I just tried to Ross Chastain it through the S's. Wall grinded, not the optimal strategy through those corners, I must admit. And then I'm so distracted by how close the guy behind me is getting, I forget to brake and just put it in the wall. So this is a great opportunity to tell you to eat some Tyros and let me know how rubber tastes. I'll tell you what, it doesn't taste good. If Tyros aren't in stores near you for some weird reason, then I'll just tell you it tastes like bad driving. Just really, really crappy driving. So I limped into the pits at the end of that lap and then eventually caught up to another guy in a Ferrari here on lap 6, coming through the bus stop and through the outer loop. And after I totally ruined the race by just opting to not use the brakes, I've put myself about 25 seconds behind the leader. It'll be pretty easy to catch up to him if we continue to make overtakes like this. Double overtake, a couple of guys going wide and making the most of that opportunity. Lap 7 now, I've just about caught back up to the Scotsman in the Porsche, and well, he broke about 5 country miles too early, and somehow I saw it at the last second, swerved off to the right and avoided him. Still got a warning for avoidable collision, but managed to avoid it in my terms. And we got through there up into 5th place. So 15 positions gained overall. But again, this Lambo is basically a cheat code if you can keep it on the track. Clearly, I'm just not one of those esports legends that can keep it on or keep it up. Okay, next race. Another example of me just absolutely botching a start. Well, I mean, I say I botched it. Not a Ferrari, the Lamborghini got way ahead of me and took 1st place, but the rest of the pack just fell about 2 seconds behind. So I guess it wasn't all that bad, but I did lose 1st place again. It's just my favorite hobby now. It happens just about every race, but that said, it does make for some good racing, and we'll try to catch up to the Lamborghini here at Kyalami and see what we can do. So through barbecue there, and well, by the way, mentioning barbecue, this track has some of the best turn names. We've got barbecue, mine shaft, a turn that I will get shafted during this race, and then we've got cheetah, and there are a few others that I just have no idea how to pronounce, so I won't say those, but I'll stick to the ones I know. Barbecue, as an American, I know barbecue pretty well. So we've already cut the gap down to 1st, below half a second. Good news, and through the S's, the Porsche performed very well, already right onto the back of that Lambo. I would expect the Porsche to do well through there. It's just on those straights, like I've said before, the acceleration on this Lamborghini is off the charts. It's going to be tough to keep up with them, but down the hill, we'll do our best. The turn at the bottom of the hill is that mine shaft corner that I was talking about earlier, and I'm sure I'll catch myself mixing up mine shaft and Minecraft a couple of times, but the Lamborghini has made a big mistake, one that I might make a couple of times if I can foreshadow a little bit later on in the race. But for now, we've gotten back up in 1st place, went a bit deep at the final corner onto the straight, and that gave the Lamborghini the chance to go up the inside. He looked for the move. The braking of the Porsche kept him behind though, and we stay in front. Later on, lap 2, we're back at mine shaft, and you know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go wide here, just a hair, not too much, but that's still enough to get 3/10 in penalties. So not great, and I really wish I would have learned my lesson, but I did not. This time though, on lap 5, braking more than enough to get through this corner just fine, no penalty. And I started to notice that the wet tires were getting a little worn here, and I was faced with a decision. I thought I could probably make these last the rest of the race, but if I went in now, I've already got about 9.5 second gap, and I almost cut that down a bit for the guys behind by going off the track, but no penalty given there. So ultimately I decided to go into the pits because I had a gap already, and I thought on fresher tires I could probably close that at the end of the race when the other guys' tires are starting to go off. What's not helping that is me completely missing my braking point, not thinking whatsoever, paying way too much attention, again for the 2nd time this episode, to the guys behind me. And ultimately, I just let him go by nice and easy, free position for him. You know, I'm like the guy at the ball game just handing out free stuff. Like, here's a necklace, here's a bracelet, here's a t-shirt, here's a poncho. Except in my situation, I'm a dumbass and I'm just handing out free positions. It's what I do best. We know this, everybody. It's another hobby of mine, one that I shouldn't have as well, but it keeps things interesting. We've got a couple more positions to try to make up for. Timing up the cutback not very well, and running into the back of the F1 here on our outside. He'll try to hang it around the corner, but the Porsche on the inside is going to get that move done, and we've gained one position that we've lost. Now we're gaining on the F50 through the penultimate corner, looking right at the back of him. He moves over to the left. That's going to keep me from making the move into that final corner. Now we're duking it out down the straight. I've got the acceleration advantage out of the corner, but he's got the top speed, so we'll see if at the end of the straight I've started to lose out, and it looks like he is just starting to pull away ever so slightly. And while he's done the Joey special here and completely missed his braking point, I somehow managed to remember to hit the pedal on the left, and we've stopped in time. Now let's take a look at where we are in terms of the leaderboard. In 4th place, and 1st place is about 10 seconds ahead. Here's the end of lap 7. We've got that time gap down to about 8 seconds, and 3rd place went into the pits. So we've assumed that position, and we are officially onto the podium once again. And we'll skip right ahead to the final lap. I pulled that gap down to 5 seconds now, and we each have a penalty, at least the top 3. 4th place does not, so if he starts catching up, we've got a problem. But the top 3, 1st place has a half a second, 2nd place 2/10, and me with the 3/10. We might have a chance at catching them. They have been slowing up. Those tires, I'm thinking, are starting to go. They haven't pit. I'm the only one in the top 4 that has pit, so that is a bit worrying. But, you know, I didn't know the strategy, or at least the optimal strategy going into the race, so we're trying something a little different, something I thought might work. And, well, we've got a chance to catch up to these guys on some fresher tires. Now, I really hope they're taking a look at the leaderboard as they're driving around and they see me closing in. I hope they've got the song from Jaws going in their brain, because I could really take advantage of any mistake they make right now, especially 1st place. I think 2nd place we've really got a chance at catching. 1st place might be a little tough. So here we go, down the hill. We're coming up only a few more corners to go. And at this point, I'm pushing full throttle. I've got to lay it all out there. I realize I am behind, and I really need to put my foot down a little too much because, well, I've gone wide again through mine shaft, and here's where I get shafted with a 1.4 second penalty, and I thought it was all over. I thought it was done. There was no way I was going to gain another position. Until we're on the penultimate corner, the leader spins out. And I was laughing at the time. I won't lie. I was cracking up. My ass was on the floor. But like in hindsight, I just can't help but feel horrible for him. Like that is so tough. I mean, it's happened to everybody. We've all botched a race. I've botched my fair share of them, put them on video and posted them to YouTube. So, you know, I just really enjoy embarrassing myself. But somehow we get out of there with a 2nd place. In the end, I did end up losing a position because, you know, we qualified pole, but I think we tried a different strategy. It might not have been the best, but it got us a chance to get onto the podium. And I think if I didn't go super, super deep at turn 1 after I got out of the pits, we might have had a better chance at pole position, and we definitely would have if I didn't go wide and get myself that extra 1.4 seconds in penalties. But it was a really fun race, a really fun group of races in the early factory race cars, I believe they're called, and yeah, I really enjoyed this hopper. I hope they bring it out again. That was really fun, and maybe have a few more cars to choose from. We only had 5 this time around, so it'd be nice to have a few more. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please do all the stuff that the YouTubers tell you to do at the ends of videos, and I'll talk to you soon. Alright, bye everybody.